my ringer off. Somebody wants to hear the clips.
Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. And today we are talking with costumers, the people who are responsible for the clothes that you see in film and TV, and how those, what people are wearing, how that, what that says about the character, your favorite characters, as well as the tone and look and feel of the overall movie or TV show itself. So to moderate the session, we have a dear friend and a past, current, present member of the African American Film Critics Association, Amy Elisa Jackson, to run things with you ladies. I'm gonna sign off, but you guys have a good time. You ladies have a good time.
Thank you, Gil.
Thank you so much, Gil. Thank you, thank you. We are so lucky today to have with us the magic makers behind American Soul, Judith McCreary and Rita and ALita McGee. We are so thrilled to have you. I really want to dive in because it's really not about just bios, but about hearing how you have brought the history and the talent and the beauty of Soul Train to life. So let's dive in. How really, and you can each take this question, please. How has the experience working on American Soul really been unique and transformative in your career? Judy, you want to kick us off?
Okay, it's weird. It's like my background was in cop shows. So this was an entire shift away from that into not just character conflict and drama, but also a period of time that I actually grew up in. So it became very nostalgic for me. You know, just to be in the mid 70s. And I chose a year that was significant in music for just that reason. I know a lot of people were like, how are you just going to jump 2 years? I said, there's a very good reason why. And it just, you know, from there, it's just, I'm still steeped in it. And I'm also looking ahead going, saying to myself, they're going to pick us up. I want 12 episodes because we only did 8 for season 2 when we should have done 10. So I want to make up the 2 that we didn't do. And I have to figure out what period of time I would go to next. So I'm already in season 3 when they haven't even called for season 3. So that's my part of what it has done for my career.
I love it.
They have to catch up to me.
Well, but yes, let the execs know that they not only have to catch up with you, Judy, but they have to catch up with the fan base because we're hungry for it as well. We're watching, we're like, what's next? What does this look like? What do the late 70s look like? Rita and ALita, talk to me about this experience of working on American Soul as costume designers, helming the wardrobe, this sort of secondary or tertiary character on the show. Would love to hear about sort of American Soul and what it means to your careers.
It's iconic for me because I grew up watching Soul Train and Don Cornelius, the fashion, the style, the music, the dancing, everything, and getting great clear notes from Judy because, like I said, she tells the story. So she gives us a background and then she'll tell the story. And so you're just immersed in it. And it gives me more information on the characters that we're designing for. So, and then it's American culture. It's American history. And it has everything involved in it. It's the music, fashion, dance, swag, owning your own business, fighting for Black power, and not stopping for excellence, to keep on going, to keep on going.
ALita, would you like to chime in?
Yes, and for me as well, just growing up, I mean, it was significant in my life and, you know, wanted to be a Soul Train dancer. But, you know, again, like what Rita said, you know, just the culture, the fashion, and what it was for us to watch it overseas. And the global, it was just a global sense of
pride.
and Black people and legacy. So it's a honor to be a part of telling this story. It's wonderful.
ALita, you touched on the global impact that not only Soul Train but Don Cornelius had. You two were born in California and grew up in Guam, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about that first time that you flipped the channel and saw Soul Train on, or one of the memorable times that, and what stood out to you as, you know, Black abroad.
Black people.
It was cool to see Black people on TV, and every Saturday morning, like it was like I just lived for that. I waited for that. It started my day. It started my
Yes.
weekend. You know, I would dance on the tables. You know, when my mom wasn't looking. I mean, it was like I would. I have a full routine. You know, because you know you had to be dancing on the platform and then
Yes.
jump down and you know and all of that.
Yes.
But
I love it.
to just
I
see
love it.
Black people shining, and then the commercials, that was always to see
Yes.
Black people in commercials, because that was the only time you saw us advertising a product. And
Correct.
it was just, you know, wonderful to see that. You know, I felt like I would walk out that day on Saturdays like, yes.
Feeling good. But it also made you want to wear your flyest outfit,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Like t-shirt and jeans just weren't enough.
No.
And I think when you saw Soul Train, you saw what was possible in fashion. You saw that evolution. You saw like, okay, I could wear a vest like with no shirt on. I mean, the fellas, not us. Like clearly, we need to keep the girls together.
Yeah.
And on American Soul right now, as I mentioned, sort of the costumes are almost like additional characters. They are integral. How did your team sort of approach the costumes in an authentic and not cheesy way? Right? We've all seen those 70s throwbacks that just look like polyester and lycra just threw up and nobody knows what to do. And it just doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel good. How did the three of you collaborate to really make this feel authentic?
Well, Judy gave us really good notes, and because she was there, so she would, you know, she would tell us when she was at this concert what they were wearing and send us pictures. So that was really good, and it was good too because it made us feel like we were there too. And so we, for Don Cornelius, we matched the episodes from Soul Train that we got to watch and see, and then we shopped for the fabric and make sure it's the right fabric, right for camera, right color, right texture and everything. So for all the performances, all of those were made.
And we
researched.
I mean, we researched, you know.
They had lookbooks laid out on the table, and everything from Sly's costume to Patti LaBelle's costume, like for LaBelle, all of their costumes were recreated, every last single one, based on the actual performance that happened on Soul Train.
Yes.
And then we kind of went crazy with Parliament Funkadelic.
Yes.
At the Soul Train Club, which we made here in LA, but it was actually in San Francisco. There was a real Soul Train Club. And they will tell you, like, if anybody was looking for me, which they were doing most of the day, they were like, where's Judy? Everybody knew where I was. I was in wardrobe. I lived in wardrobe. I escaped to wardrobe. I would hide in the racks. I would be like, oh, I could rock this and this and this. Like, I was always in wardrobe.
I love it. And I secretly hope that you put on a pair of hot pants and just did one dip it low and pick it up slow.
Hey.
Just one.
I love it.
Judy's like, I'm not telling. These are professionals on the line.
they have me. There's some video out there of me dancing up on the Soul Train stage. Like, I went a little crazy because I was feeling the music, and I was back in 1975. And then I had on Bootsy's glasses at one point. There's a picture of me like rocking the glasses. I'm not kidding. I sort of went a little cuckoo. Like, it was a time warp, and I'm so happy. I can't even tell you, but the ladies, like a lot of it, once you put it all together, you have to realize, like on the stages, we had all of these rooms and they had the most elaborate wallpaper on it. So I would have to take my phone because they would send me on WhatsApp, we had this thing where they would take the photos of the wardrobe choices for the dancers, for the guest stars, for the extras, and I would take it and walk the stage to make sure that no one clashed with the bold wallpaper where the scene was supposed to play. Like it got really complicated and intense.
Into detail that people not only appreciate, but you see the nuance and you see the care, you see the research come through in how it's shot and how things are captured, but also it really illuminates the characters.
Yes.
What they did was phenomenal, because I could go to wardrobe and look at the lookbook for that episode. It was laid out on the table, and I could go to the racks and see for every character what they were going to be wearing for that episode in all of the different scenes. It was lovely. And so I also made sure that if two characters were in a scene, that they weren't in too similar a color, unless that's where I was going. For instance, in episode 3, Don Cornelius with June Pointer, they were in similar colors, which matched his car. That was deliberate. Right? So we made choices along the way for that. And it really came from a conversation, all of this, that I had with Babyface, because he wrote original songs for American Soul, but also remastered all of the performances with the guest actors who were playing, the famous singers from back in the day. He said to me, when it came to what the original song was supposed to be about, this is what he said, which blew my mind. He said, "Don't ask me for orange." And I said, "What?" He said, "Don't say you want orange. That is not a descriptor about what the song should be about. I need information." So having had that conversation with him well ahead of time, it started me thinking about all the departments, but in particular for wardrobe, because the more information I gave to Rita and ALita, the more information they could take and run with it, with their creativity and all of it. And so that's why I approached it that way, and they blew it. They just blew it all over the place. It was stardust, and like I would walk in their area and all of the burdens would just lift.
Oh, good.
I would be like, "Look at this."
Well, that's one of the compliments that Rita and ALita have passed on to me about you, is that you are very accomplished, you're talented, and you're a very clear executive producer, and how rare that is in Hollywood, but also how essential that is to a project like this. ALita and Rita, what was it like for you on set when you could see Judy coming in and out, and that she was paying so close of attention and providing type of clarity?
Clarity is everything. She's an excellent leader. And she's
so nice.
Her word is her word. Her word is her word.
Yeah, her word is bond. Boom. But it was great. We would like meet halfway, and she would be coming to see us, or like she said, peek out of the racks, but the clarity in the story, the clarity and the story that she gave. I mean, that's what you guys see, the detail, the authenticity, of the clothing and the characters, and then it just all comes together. Like even when the actors put it on, when our actors would come in the fitting, our fittings were amazing, because we're like, when you put it on, you be coming. It's not you're acting it, and they would feel it. And I mean, it would just be a zone. Like our fittings were just amazing. But Judy, the clear, like we would get excited. Talking
yes.
to her.
We
And
would
we'd be clear. We're like, oh, we can do this, you know. I mean, just everything.
we would want to know the
Everything.
rest of the story.
Yes.
Like for Ruby, it was a gun holster, and we thought we knew what a gun holster was.
Yeah. And how things would go down.
And we Googled and
Yes, the
searched it, and we
research.
were like, oh, this is it. And she came in and did the action for
Oh,
us
yes.
on where it's supposed to go.
Yes.
Decided to done everything.
Yes, we did movement. So even
Oh,
for
yeah.
the dancers, everything for yeah, we did it all. Yeah,
Yeah.
Judy was that clear, which was great because when you have such clear direction, you know where to go. You know, because you could be doing one thing, or you know, say we did the going home. She's like, oh no, it's not like that.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. Boop boop, bop bop, bitty bop bop, and then we're like, okay. Bada bing! There we go. We got you.
So for when you think back on this particular project, it sounds to me, and I think to those of the AAFCA members who are tuning in and others, that this has been such a delight and a rarity in an industry that can often not be, you know, producers that are that clear, or stylists or crews that are not as diverse as this one is. Talk to me, Rita and ALita, about sort of the state of the industry of costume design, especially for those who aren't as familiar. One of the things you and we had talked about yesterday was sort of like costume designers often become attached to projects through referral. And, you know, white producers have sort of been criticizing or have been criticized for tokenizing the hiring of Black crew. But this seems like almost the pinnacle project. How is this different than the industry norm right now? What's the state of costume designers?
I'm being very positive.
Amen.
The state of costume design and Black people in costume design is that we could do every kind of project, because what it is research and getting the vision of your executive producer so that that vision comes to life, telling the story through the clothes, and we're excellent workers.
Nice.
We're excellent at, and we bring the meat and the passion and
dedication
and just all of that good stuff. We bring it to whatever the project is. So I'm very hopeful that it's going to be very positive for Black costume designers to be working all kind of projects all the time.
Yes. Yeah. That they include us all, that they see that just like any other person of color, non-person of color, that we are in the running, you know, that we are excellent at what we do. You know, we're coming in.
I think they see it for just some, you know, not to be intimidated or nervous, because we're exceptional at doing the work. We're filmmakers, and we want to show this vision and show this story.
And I think what's been happening is like where you have the white actors that were playing Black characters, or, you know, they'll hire white costume designers to tell a Black story, and thinking that as people of color that we can't tell their story, even though that's like our life, like that's the mainstream. Right. Of course we know that, you know, our lives involve everybody, you know, so I think we're excellent at telling that story.
All stories.
You know, all stories. So, you know, just as the expectation of them to research and really, you know how to tell, you know, people of color stories, we can do the same.
Exactly.
So I think I'm praying it's changing. I think it's changing. Someone like Ruth Carter, Oscar winning, brought Marvel their first Oscar. You can see that at such a global, worldwide scale that, you know, we are capable. You know, we are awesome. We are excellent.
Judy, how are you seeing things sort of shift, or are you seeing the shift from the EP position? Talk to us about that and how you have viewed costume designers in your work.
Well, it wasn't until I did this that I really saw wardrobe as an integral part of the storytelling. Because on things like Law and Order SVU or something like that, it's like, it's suits, it's, you know, it's the New York vibe, and depending upon your class situation, you're in a very simple sheath that costs $5,000, or you're in a pair of jeans and a top that you could get at the Gap. Like, this to me was an eye opener, especially since, like, I think about Soul Train and how we talk about how it was the first time really that you saw Black people being celebrated, their dances being celebrated with commercials that included Black people. But the fact is that when I took this job, a lot of my peers called me and said, I loved that show growing up. And they were white, they were Latino, and they were Taiwanese. And you realize that, and we even played it, we dramatized it in an episode, that white kids watched the show. Some of them hid it from their parents, and a lot of them didn't. And that's how they would learn. We watched the show to learn how to dance and what to wear. And I heard that from a bunch of people. So it just tells you that there was something really, really special with it. And then what became really clear to me is, yes, I might have had a vision for something, but both Rita and ALita were very clear if something that I chose wasn't going to work in the scene, because the actress's feedback or an actor's feedback was, I'm not comfortable in it. For instance, the first time that we saw Ruby, I picked another dress. And then they both came to me and said, she can't really dance in it. And you want more than anything for her character to stand out because she's slow dancing by herself. So she needs to be able to move, and the dress that you've chosen is too constricting. So you have to be able to listen to the feedback and switch it up. And they, of course, had a substitute dress, which they waved at me and said, this won't work. What do you think? And I was like, yeah. But you have to be able to adjust if you need to. Like, especially when we're doing all these dance sequences, the cloth itself needs to be fluid. They need to be able to move, and there's a lot of movement in this. So they were very, very generous and felt free to, like, give me that feedback, because that's important. I need to know these things to be able to say, well, then let's make a left turn.
Absolutely.
You can't be stuck with what it is you want to see. That doesn't work either.
Now, how did this partnership actually begin? Judy and then Rita and ALita, how did both of you, or both sets, sort of become attached to the project? Because I think that there is power in that story as well, specifically for the costume designers who were tuned in.
Well, they were already on the show. I was the new kid. And they came to the office, and I actually passed them in the parking garage. I was parking, I looked over and I saw them and I said, wardrobe. They were dressed. I was like, oh God, look at wardrobe. And so they came in to just have a meeting with me, and we just sat and talked in a room. And it was just apparent to me that, first of all, obviously in season 1, the wardrobe was on and popping. They knew what they were doing. What could I say? Like, you really need to get the 70s to get, like, no, there was none of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
How we came together is, well, we're sisters, blood sisters, and
we just started working. Yeah,
we just started working together, and
became a team.
Yeah,
and it just works, and we just get each other yin and yang, and
I love it.
She knows dance and music and fashion and art, and
she was dope boss,
and anything that's popping and trending. And
she's crazy.
But it's rare sisters to be working together. I don't care which side of the house we're talking, or front or behind the camera. Two sisters to be a dynamic duo, that's a pretty big deal. That's a rarity in this industry.
Yes,
I think so, yes.
we're the ones.
And talk to us about one of your mentors, Ruth Carter. She's someone who has tremendously blazed a trail. And of course, Oscar, talk to us about sort of the sisterhood of costume designers, sort of helmed by Ruth, if you will.
She's an encourager, a mentor. She definitely helps anytime. You can call and say, any kind of question at all.
Yeah.
And she's just an excellent example of a leader.
Yes, and
Of a leader and someone who wants to teach, who wants to give back, who wants to help, who wants to see you shine, to see us all shine, encourage you on your projects and everything like that. So it's a great friendship, familyship, mentorship, sistership, friendship.
she's the queen godmother of costume design. She knows how much I love her. And to be honored to work with her, to learn from her. I mean, she opened the door, paved the way, bless Rita. Then I'm blessed by Ruth and Rita. Ruth knows, Obama, Ruth.
I love it.
I love that.
When you think about how things have changed, or haven't they, since Ruth won the 2018 Oscar for Best Costume for Black Panther, what have you seen change in this 2 years? Or have you seen changes? What's been an evolution, if you will?
I have seen it. I have to think on what it is.
I think that more doors have opened. Like we said, opportunities of doing other jobs. I think now in the last 2 weeks, or now with Black Lives Matter and people learning to be allies and just reflecting on their part in the business in our world, I think they're open to.
I think maybe one change I would say is that people now are finding out there's more Black costume designers and costumers and executive producers and writers. And then there's people in the business that are filmmakers who are exceptional on their job. And it's not just 10 jobs and we're all on the 10 jobs. We're all on a lot of jobs. It's just, finding that out. And I think it's just, some people that you just didn't know about at all.
And
So
I think that's really why AAFCA honestly wanted to put the panel and the series together, is because wanting to shine that light on the behind the lens talent, that it's not just the actresses and actors and the A-listers, but there are magic makers all throughout, no matter where you are in the crew list, that are there. Judy, given the fact that you are a seasoned pro in the game.
That's a nice way of saying I'm old, but I appreciate it.
Are seasoned. Seasoned like a good cast iron skillet. What changes are you seeing sort of below the line or behind the lens that are giving you encouragement? What are you seeing that's happening beyond just the director, potentially the producer or actors? What are you seeing behind the scenes that's really encouraging to you? And it shows, especially right now.
I honestly, I haven't seen it yet. We're looking at something that's going to make an impact in the future, especially when we reopen. I have a concern that I was called by my manager and he's like, I'm getting a lot of calls about projects, civil rights projects. And I said, that's not the answer to this.
Exactly.
That's another box.
Right.
And as one of the characters said, boxes are for big hats and bodies. We don't need another box. We just need to be able to spread out
Yes.
and spread our wings, or have the opportunity to work on many different things.
Yes.
And I think what will happen, because now it just seems like there are Helen Kellers everywhere who have just learned how to fold the napkin, that this is what is going to change it. Every time there's a little piece, a little revolution, there's a lot of lip service about what they're going to do and how they're going to open things up, and then nothing happens.
Mhm.
Or if it happens, it's little tiny drips and drabs. There's really not that much, and you got to be a magical person of color in order to get it.
Mhm.
But I think with this, because the revolution, if you will, went global, it was international. It wasn't like the riots from 1992. Because at first, when I saw it, I was like, I saw this movie already. But it became a whole different sort of flavor when it went internationally. And so I think that I'm just going off of the hope of the change that's going to come, because I haven't seen it yet, only because we're closed.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just don't like the little information I am getting is about civil rights projects. Why can't we just do stories about people of color that are just stories?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be about you're oppressing me.
Right.
Because the truth of the matter is, although it's been a little bit lately, I don't get up in the morning and go, oh my God, I gotta be black today.
Tell it.
I mean, that's what they're thinking now, is it's like those poor people have to get up in the morning and just like put on a suit of armor to go out in public, because they get up going, oh my God, they've gotta be black today. It's like, what?
Oh, Judy.
And I'm becoming a little weary of, being the Blackopedia for some of my friends. It's like, oh, Google it. Like, quit asking me, and don't ask me if you're a racist, because just because you thought of it means you probably are. Just own it. Just embrace it and hug it. And put it to your chest. I mean, it's just too much. Right now, it's a little much.
Right.
But when everybody calms down and figures out like where they want to go, maybe there's going to be some new projects that get greenlit from people that you didn't expect. And maybe, it's like there'll be projects, all different kinds of projects.
Yeah.
In some projects, it's like nobody ever asked me if I could write for white people. I've been writing for white people for decades, and it wasn't a problem. But I did face like blockades where if I wrote for a black character, whoever the victim was had to be black too, because they could only relate to black victims. And so I nixed that in the bud right away. I probably said get out my face a couple times. I don't remember, but that's usually, and see, the two of them are laughing because they would come to the production meetings and I would get salty. And they would always come to see what kind of saltiness was going to be on the menu.
You're the real one.
Right. I appreciate it. We all do. I think, one of the things that we have seen, as you mentioned, Judy, in years past, when there's uprising, then there's this rush to greenlight civil rights films or slavery films.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to see any
it's
more
not to
slavery.
say that those are bad, but there's so many more stories to tell. Case in point, American Soul.
Yes.
Which, yes, has a backdrop of what's happening in 75 or what's happening in the early 70s, but it's not all about that. What are some of the stories you three are eager to tell? for the executives tuning in or for the writers tuning in? What are the stories you're eager to tell or bring to life that you feel like are missing, that either you want to tune into or you want to design for? Yeah, what are you looking for?
Well, I love stories, but stories of children going to school and graduating and going skiing and horseback riding and playing violin and music and art and traveling. And that's their everyday. It's not like, this shocking thing. People growing up overseas in Guam, just everyday, everyday stories, going to eat sushi, going to Japan. Just,
I mean, we're so diverse all over the world. So there's so many stories to tell. Judy.
Very unique, and most people don't even think about living internationally, which you did. You grew up in Guam. It's like they don't even think about that as a storyline for someone. I went to an international school, so all of my classmates were ambassadors' kids in DC. I didn't have the other experience, and I was one of the few, American kids at the school. Never mind Black. There were Black kids. They were Africans, and they were Africans whose fathers had big deal jobs, plenipotentiaries. Like, you don't even think about it. But if I was going to do a story right now, it would be going in the other direction, like a kid with an African mother and a white father, and he suddenly becomes an orphan and has to go and live with relatives in Tanzania. And how fish out of water that is, especially when, you go deeper into, it's not in the big city, it's out. And how interesting that is. Like, how does somebody who's 12 years old and grew up in LA navigate that environment?
And how do they dress? And how does that feel? And what does that look like? Because that's all very different. Clothing in Nigeria is very different from clothing in Durban or Tanzania or Morocco, any number of the things. I think that we are missing that global presence of the African American experience that doesn't feel that like, ooh, I saved up for this one trip and we're going because it's a girls' trip. And it's like,
no.
Right.
It's right, exactly. And not to mention the fact that there's going to be problems for them as well, accepting this very American yet blood relation. And how tainted are they because they're biracial, and are they really accepted? Is there an acceptance, or is there a wall up? Which those are all lovely conflict stories to explore. So I think I need to go break that story.
See how Judy is? See, once she starts that, you're just drawn in. Like, this would be our wardrobe. We're like, yes, just more. I see it. I see the clothes. I see the video. Yeah, see, yes, go do that. I think that's fantastic.
She's like, then call me. When it comes to, and ALita, if you want to take this one, when it comes to costume design and the net amongst you all, what barriers still need to be broken just in the costume design realm? Because I'm sure that there's this, you talked about this sisterhood of sort of like, there are other Black costumers who and who, it's all kind of a little bit of family, but across the aisle, if you will, what are the barriers that you feel like still need to be broken down in and amongst your peers? Are there barriers, or does that feel cohesive, given the fact that there is a guild, you have representation with the academy, etc.?
Interesting question. I think trying to wrap my head. I think one of the things, like I say with Rita, her doors are always open. Like, people on Instagram or just I want to learn. And she's paid it forward of always opening the doors to, because that's how, you know, more people of color are going to have opportunity to see what that world looks like. In terms of that space, you said the peers of what does it look like?
Your peers, yeah. In terms of costume designing, your peers does it still just feel like, okay, there's, for example, at high school, there's the black kid lunch table and then there's everybody else? Or does it, I went to a white school.
Black person, but when I went to the States, I saw that. I was like, oh, this is what they're talking about.
Or does it feel more familial? Because I think in the producing realm, you see people, you're navigating, you're networking. It can feel almost like a sisterhood or a brotherhood. Is that how it is in costume design, or are there still some?
Yeah, I would kind of say it is, because you know you're on a project, so your life is
just the
project. You know, your crew. That's what your life is, and in that world. And when you create that environment and that family and your costumers and your team, you know, you do carry it over. And so there was a discussion of like, how does diversity happen? How does the door open if you're kind of going from one project to the next with the same group of people? And it is the peers, it is that little table, and same in that world where it's like, okay, I want to, someone wants to, well, it's show's not around, but Sex of the City, or what does that, you know, someone breaking into that world, do those worlds cross? I think, you know, so maybe costumers, I think, have more of a space of, you know, because you have people that are day playing, and then that opens the door to, you know, another space. And, you know, I think that world can cross the lines. As designers, you know, you're from one project to the next, so that camaraderie or the discussion, it can be in that smaller circle. But when we have our guild parties, that's an opportunity for us to meet each other and talk, you know, to each other. And we, you know, I think there's discussions now of like, let's, you know, do that. Let's come together. Like when we're at these gatherings, you know, let's go across the table, let's discuss, let's talk, you know, and that's, you know, I think how it grows. And it's like, oh, we're doing this. But when we do get together, it's great. But then once we get into our working world, it's not that we wouldn't want to, it's just that it's our life 24/7, you know. What would you say?
No, I agree. I think it's lifting as you climb, you know, helping people, bringing people in. So our industry for people of color, Black people, that there's more. And then when we get together, when we see each other, if we are just having a network that we can reach out to one another.
Absolutely. It's reminding me of this quote from Ruth Carter where she says, being a trailblazer means that you sit in a room full of people who don't look like you, and you have to be there and represent the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does being a trailblazer mean to you? Judy, you want to kick us off? Each person can answer, but what does being a trailblazer mean to you? Because like Ruth said, it's like, it can be uncomfortable to be the only, but is that definition evolving for you? What is be a trailblazer?
It is now, only because, I mean, I know what she means, because I was the only raisin in the bowl of oatmeal for a very long time.
Amen.
Very, very long time. But I still think what it means for me specifically is early on in my TV career, because I started in features, I went to a meeting to staff on a TV show, and the showrunner said to me, if we bring on an urban character, we'll give you a call. And I think I was at the end of my rope that day, because I said, a lot of Jews in Dawson's Creek, are there? And he's like, I didn't mean, and we should work together. And it was lip service, and I made him uncomfortable. I made him very uncomfortable. But the one thing for me about being a trailblazer is I don't care who I'm looking at, whether it's a Latinx or Asian or Black or white. That writer, if they have the ability to mimic a voice, can write anything for anybody, for any character, because that's the job of what we do. And if you start looking at them as, I've hired you specifically for your race to write for this race, it is limiting an individual into a place of never being able to get out of that net whatsoever. And we still have that work to do.
Yeah.
Because there's, like with shows, you're going to have all different kinds of characters. And if you start saying, well, you can only write for that character, then whereas there's no limitation for white writers, you see.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what being a trailblazer is to say, it's not that I don't want you to see the color of my skin. I just don't want you to limit me because of the color of my skin.
Like that. Put up.
You need to put that on IG right
Yes,
there.
yes, right. That right there.
Like, repost.
Yes.
Thumbs up, fire.
Yes. That part right there.
When someone calls you a trailblazer, Rita, what comes to mind? And when you think about being a trailblazer, yes,
Oh,
you.
like me? Yes, you.
Clutches pearls. Mhm.
No, the only thing I would say a trailblazer for me is to have perseverance,
Mm.
to stick with the difficulties, to stick with the frustrations, to stay in the room, because if you're in the room, then the door opens and you could open the door for everyone else.
Man,
I would say that.
Wow, I love that.
Fire emoji, fire.
Yeah. Oh.
I know.
All about the emojis.
Yes, I'm an emoji girl.
Right?
I love it. I
But
love
it's
it.
so true. Perseverance.
That's right. What so many times, and people, my friends and I, we talk about this a lot. Sometimes it feels like being Black in the entertainment industry or tech or any other, it feels like it's a struggle at times, or that you have to like push through, or it's a strain. But tell me, each of you, what gives you so much joy? The work and the expertise and the craftsmanship of the work that you do. What gives you so much joy?
Well, I'm passionate about what I do. So, and I like to work hard and get it done and feel accomplished. And I'm blessed to be doing something that I love to do. When there's so many people who want to do it or have no idea, like I've met people who had no idea that there's costume designer and there's EP. They're just like, they turn on the TV and just magical. They have no idea. So to be doing something that I'm passionate about, I want to work hard and, do my work unto the Lord, and just,
Yes.
it gives me excitement to be doing something that you love to do.
And it
So-
brings me joy to like create something, sketch something out and see it to fruition, see it on
Yes.
screen, see movement. I mean, it just pure joy. Just the combination of all of those worlds coming together. But yeah, I really get joy of like making something and seeing it in real life. It's like fascinating and accomplishing.
It brings me joy when a scene comes to life and it's better than I saw it in my head.
Mm.
And that's when everything is working. And I mean, everything is working. And I don't have to give a note. I don't have to do anything except watch it. And there was a lot of that this season. I'm not saying it was always like that, because there were challenges and there were problems. I mean, picture cars not turning on and all kinds of craziness. But when you walk on the stage and it's all like a dance and everybody knows the steps, that brings me so much joy. It makes me go, tomorrow's going to be just like this. And even though the next day isn't, I still have the feeling from when it was, and it carries me through.
That's wonderful. Do each of you have a favorite scene? Because, we have voting members. of the African American Film Critics Association and other organizations where they'll be watching and they're tuning in and they're screening. Is there a scene that really stands out in American Soul for you where the harmony of the acting, the writing, and the costumes really just come together to create a sweet harmony? A favorite scene?
Okay, I'll say this to you.
Yeah,
Even right now, the Slice and the Family Stone performance, thank you for letting me be myself, intercut with action in between the dancers and the performance was so, it was just perfection. Like his red jumpsuit to his bejeweled belt and his Star of David and his hat and all of the, you know, whether it's Cynthia with the trumpets or is this the Rose on the organ, like it was just the business. And DC Young Fly brought the noise and it was perfection, start to finish.
Boop, boop, that's exactly.
He's like, that part, that's the part.
Yes.
Who's tuned in has not seen this season, has not seen the show. You need to get on it ASAP, binge watch, like grab a good cocktail and hit it.
Yes.
It has been absolutely. Ladies, you guys have been amazing. And on behalf of the African American Film Critics Association, thank you, Rita, ALita, Judith, and of course, Mrs. Jackson.
Hey.
Appreciate all of you. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing more of your work. And we also are looking forward to continue to support and uplift you in whatever you do.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Season 3.
Season 3.
Yes.
Do you guys want to share your socials so that people can connect with you socially?
Oh, sure. Rita McGee Official.
Fashion ALita, ALITA.
Judy, JUDI, McCrary, all lowercase at Gmail.
Amy Elisa Jackson on all your channels. I can't wait to see season 3.
Yeah.
Rita and ALita, I can't wait to see P Valley. Like all the projects. Let's. I cannot wait. Can't wait.
Well, this is terrific, and you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe.
Thank you.
And we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Good luck, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.